So I have two data sets that I worked with. One was I'll start with one for mental health. So in this mental health data set, we had different fields that were timestamp, gender, country, occupation, self-employed to know if the person was self-employed, the family history, the treatment if the person is receiving treatment, then the days the person spends indoors, if the person has growing stress, then if the person changes, if there are changes in the person's habits, then if there's a mental health history, if there are mood swings, the level of mood swings of the person, if they're high, low, or medium, then if the person copes with struggles coping with things, then if the person has interest in work, the social weakness, if they did the mental health interview and the care options. So with this data set, I came up with a number of things. First, I looked at the mental health by country. So I put the number of people. This one here, I looked at people with positive, like who have a history, mental health history. And then I allocated them according to countries. So we see the highest number of people that struggle with mental health are those in the United States. Well, also in the United Kingdom is quite high. It was followed after the United States. It was followed by the United Kingdom, then Canada, then yeah, the rest of the countries followed after. Then we also looked at mental health history by gender, and we realized there is a higher number of people who have that mental health history. It's higher in men than in females. So males struggle more with mental health, and I used the pie chart because we had to fill just. So that's why I used the pie chart. Then I also looked at it by occupation. Here I added labels, but they're just not. They're just. I just made them white so that they're more visible on the dashboard. But otherwise, we had labels. Maybe we'll look at them when we also go to the dashboard. So I used a pie chart also here. Then we had the occupation by gender, looking at the different occupations. Maybe I should first turn this back to black so that let me see. Yeah. So when the access is anyway. So I was looking at the different occupations by gender. So this was business, and we see there are more males generally in all of them. They have more males than females in most of the occupations. Then I looked at the family history. If there's a mental health history in families, and the higher number was for no. Then I tried to look at if staying indoors affects one's stress levels. Here I used the is it called a tree map. I used the tree map because we had a number of stress levels, and then we also had a number of days people stay indoors. So I felt like this would be the most suitable for me. So we see that the highest number was this one of 13,000, whereby people said yes, they experience growing stress, uh, and the number of times they stay indoors is 1 to 14 days, while the lowest was for people who stay indoors, who move out, who stay indoors for more than 2 months. So maybe here it would show that maybe that more people go out because these ones were yes, 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 and you see most of them their colors are almost approaching deep red. So it seems that more people go out, the more stress they incur. While when you look at this side where they don't really go out, the colors are the lower on the lower spectrum. So maybe the more they stay indoors, the the stress reduces. That's what I would say according to this. Like they this yeah. So I also have, and maybe to add on about the tree maps. No, maybe I explained this wrong earlier. Sorry. So this is the one. These are the ones who go out more in 2 days. You realize they experience more stress. So I would say about the tree maps. I don't think I would say staying indoors. Okay, to an extent, I would say staying indoors reduces on the stress levels than those who go out. That's what I would conclude on that. Then we see changing habits versus mood swings. Maybe if we go to the dashboard, since the labels are visible there, let me use the dashboard. So on the dashboard, we see changing habits versus mood swings. And we see if, yes, these are the ones who change habits, and then these are the ones who don't. We shall mainly look at the yes and the no's. So here I use the bar charts, I use bar graphs because it's easier for me to analyze all of them using the bar graphs, and anyone else who can analyze using bar graphs. So on the aspect of changing habits, we realize those when you look at the high, it's higher for those who change habits, and it's also lower for people who don't change habits. So I would say changing habits doesn't really affect one's mood swings. That's what I would say about that. So we also looked at the mental health history versus treatment. Here we use the line graph. We use line graph because we're looking at dates and it is continuous. So that is why. Then we can also make the dashboard. We can make the dashboard interactive. For example, when you go to Canada, the information will change accordingly. And then if you go to Australia, it will also change accordingly. Then, and the second data set was looking at sleep patterns versus lifestyle. And in this data set, we have the person's ID, gender, age, occupation, sleep duration, quality of sleep, physical activity level, stress level, BMI category, the blood pressure, the heart rate. So maybe the difference with this data and the other one was more of qualitative, while this one is quantitative. And to be honest, on the one of the qualitative data, I first I faced more of a challenge with qualitative data, like representing it. Yeah, was because now I have for the qualitative data, maybe just to go back a little bit. For the qualitative data, I had to do because most of the fields, actually, I think all the fields were text fields, string fields. So I had to calculate for them. I had to calculate values, and the calculated values are the ones which helped me come up with all these things to analyze. I had to first calculate. Well done for the quantitative. I really didn't have to start. There are some, yes, there were some calculated fields, but then there were few compared to the previous one. So with this other data set, I looked at a number of things. I started with the sleep versus stress versus the sleep disorder, different disorders. We had three. We had two. We had people, we looked at people with insomnia, we looked at people with sleep apnea, and then we looked at those who don't have. And then we looked at their stress levels. And we noticed people with insomnia, with the insomnia have higher stress levels. I think so. That's the stress that can show you that stress affects one's sleep. Stress can lead you to get some sleep disorders because those with none had the lowest really stress levels. Then we also looked at stress versus occupation, and we noticed sales representatives have the highest levels of stress versus sales scientists and sales special. Scientists and sales persons. So here I use a bar chart only because it was the simplest. I could have used many others. I could have used a pie chart, but I felt it would be neater and easily more understood, less crowded while using the bar chart. So I also did stress versus gender, and here it shows female males have a higher stress levels than females, which could be true because men are known to be providers, and when it comes to quality of sleep, women have better quality of sleep than men. But we already saw, I think we saw somewhere that stress affects the quality. This shows that stress affects the quality of sleep. So we come here to look at the average quality of sleep and the stress levels in different age groups. So we used a line graph because, like we said earlier, line graphs are continuous. So it gives you a variety, like the ages. So as we can see, like we said earlier, the quality of sleep, when the quality of sleep is high, that means stress levels usually are low. And when the stress levels are high, that means the quality of sleep is low. So, when you look at the highest people with the highest quality of sleep are basically people from the ages of 53. So that means their stress levels basically have dropped down. But you'll notice people in their mids there, in 30s, people in their 30s have high levels. The average stress goes down a bit while the quality of sleep is high. But people approaching 30 have high stress levels and the quality of sleep is low. So we also looked at the BMI categories. So we looked at the stress level, we looked at the average heart rate for them. Then we also looked at the average stress levels. Then we also looked at the average physical activity and the average quality of sleep and the sleep duration. And we notice that with the normal people have lower I think this is the normal range. I can't really talk about heart rates because I don't know which is the normal one. But when you come to stress levels, the stress levels increase as the weight increases. And when you look also at physical activity, you look at people with normal adults who do more physical activities than any of the above. And the quality of sleep also decreases with the weight because we already saw stress levels increase with the weight. So quality of sleep will somehow decreases with weight. So yeah. So we also looked at the physical activity levels versus age. And then we calculated the maximum and minimum. Maybe we can look at what I did here. Here was to calculate the maximum and minimum. we said if the average activity level is equal to the maximum, so you look at the max, like the whole window, the values that are there. So if it is the, you pick out the maximum value. So if that value, the average, is equal to this maximum, then we shall put that maximum value. And if the average, else if the average is equal to the minimum window, so you compare it to pick the minimum, then you put that value. So that is how we notice that the highest value was 90 for age group 56, and then the lowest was 53 to 54. Then I also did a gender count to count the number of males and females, and then occupation count. So this occupation gender count is only showing like this because of the filters that were put here. But let me first remove the filters. Let me first remove the filters. So this is the normal, this is the real gender count, and this is the occupation count. So we have more nurses followed by doctors. Yeah. So here is the dashboard I came up with, which has the gender count, then the quality of sleep, and gender, stress levels versus gender, occupation, then the. But now, like we say, to make it interactive, we have to fill this filter here. So now when you come here, this shows the people with insomnia. When you press here, this shows the people with no disorder. Let me also fill this so that I make it interactive. So here, this shows the number of females, but no sleep disorder. So this shows the number of females only. So this dashboard, I have two dashboards. I have the other one and this one. So even if you put here female, it's still going to be interactive on this other side. So when I say female, you see also that second dashboard changes. It also changes. So that is what I was able to come up with. Thank you.